Hello, dreamer. I'll be your storyteller tonight. Like and subscribe for more bedtime stories and share in the comments where you're listening from. I just lost my job. Bills stacked on the table. Nights stretched long and restless. So when the house next door suddenly had a new neighbor, I noticed too much. Maybe more than anyone else, but something about him didn't sit right with me. He moved in without a sound. No moving truck. No footsteps on the stairs. No lights turning on. One day the house was empty. The next, the curtains were drawn shut, and someone lived inside. But no one in the neighborhood had ever seen him arrive. At night, the house looked wrong. Not abandoned, not lived in. Something between the two. The kind of place your eyes don't want to rest on. But sometimes, when the street was silent and the world was asleep, I'd catch a flicker of light behind the curtain, like a candle, or maybe a TV screen. Always dim, always shifting, and a shadow would pass across it. Tall, too tall, like it stretched farther than a body should. The first time I heard him was around 2 a.m. A knock at my door. Slow, hollow, 3 times. I froze, waited, opened it. No one was there. Only a box. Small. Wrapped in dark paper. It smelled like dirt. And something older. Inside was a photograph of me, sleeping. I should have called the cops. I should have left. But fear twists your mind, it whispers. Find out for yourself. So, I did the worst thing I could do. I went to him. His door was unlocked. It opened like it had been waiting. The air inside hit me like a fist. Rot, wet earth, burnt hair. The smell of something kept too long in the dark. Candles burned low, wax dripping in circles on the floor. And the walls, every inch of them, covered in photographs. Not art, not family, pictures of us. Every neighbor, every street, every home. And then I saw mine. Dozens, hundreds. Me in the kitchen. Me walking to work. Me asleep in bed. Someone had been watching. Always. In the center of the room sat a chair. Turned away from me. Someone was in it. Still. Too still. I whispered, "Hello?" The head turned. Slow. With a crack of bone like breaking wood. And the face, it wasn't his. It was mine. I stumbled back. And the photographs, they began to peel from the walls, one by one. Behind them wasn't wallpaper, wasn't plaster. It was flesh, skin stretched, thin, stitched into the walls like paper, and it pulsed. Breathing. The whole house, alive. I ran. I swear I did. Out into the street. Cold air. Moonlight. But when I turned back, the house was gone. The lot was empty. Just weeds and dirt. Like no one had ever lived there. That was months ago. And yet, every night since, I hear it. The knock. Slow. Hollow. Wrong. And in my mirror, when I'm half asleep, I see him, not my reflection. Not anymore. Just The neighbor, smiling. When was the last time you looked in your mirror and knew it was really you? I should have stayed home. The storm was warning enough. But then the phone rang. It was my neighbor. Her voice was shaking. "Power's out. Can you come over? I don't want to be alone." She lived just 3 houses down. A widow, maybe mid-40s. Quiet, polite smiles when we crossed paths. No reason not to trust her. So I went. Her house was old, wallpaper peeling. The air smelled of damp wood and dust. Candles burned low, shadows bending on the walls. She smiled too quickly when she saw me. "Thank you for coming," she whispered. Then her eyes flickered toward the stairs. "You can stay the night. But whatever you do, don't open the locked room upstairs." I laughed nervously. Thought she was joking. But she didn't. Her face didn't move. Her eyes didn't blink. The storm howled. The house creaked. Hours dragged like days, and then I heard it. From upstairs. From the locked room. At first I told myself it was branches scraping, or rats in the walls. But the sound was too sharp, too desperate. Like nails clawing wood, like something begging to be let out. I pressed my ear to the door, and I swear, I heard a whisper, my name. I stumbled back, rushed downstairs. But she was already waiting in the kitchen, still, silent. Her face pale in the candlelight. I stammered, "What's in that room?" Her smile cracked, too wide. Teeth catching the glow, and she whispered, "Not what. Who?" The scratching turned to pounding. The whole ceiling shook while she grabbed my arm, nails cutting into my skin. "You need to leave. Now." And I did. I ran through the storm and never looked back. The next morning, her house was boarded up, windows sealed, curtains drawn. No sign of her. No locked room. Neighbors swore the house had been empty for years. No one living there. No one calling in the storm. But sometimes, when thunder shakes the sky, I hear it. That scratching, that whisper. My name. Next time, you'll open the door. I was 15 the summer it all began. Our street was ordinary. Narrow brick houses in Brooklyn, neighbors arguing over rent, kids racing bikes until the streetlights buzzed to life. It wasn't perfect, but it was safe. At least, that's what I believed. My mom worked double shifts at the hospital. My dad drove deliveries, so the street became my playground. I knew every corner store, every shortcut through the alleys. Then, he moved in, 2 doors down. At first, nothing about him stood out. Mid-40s, plain clothes, always carrying the same brown grocery bag, though it never looked full. He never came out during the day, only evenings, always after the sun dipped. The first time we spoke was late July. I was bent over my bike fixing a slipped chain. That's when I saw him step onto the curb, holding a leash. At the end of it was a little brown dog, tail wagging hard enough to shake its body. "Friendly, isn't he?" the man said. His voice was soft. Too soft, I forced a smile. "Yeah, cute dog." He tilted his head. "Want to hold the leash?" I shook mine quickly. "Nah, I'm good." He smiled anyway. but it lingered too long, as if the smile wasn't really about the dog at all. After that, he was everywhere, always with the dog, always waiting, and always watching me. Sometimes he'd ask questions, harmless on the surface. What school do you go to? What time do you usually ride? Where do your parents work? I was 15. I didn't think much of it. But then came the night that changed everything. It was close to 10 p.m. I was biking home late, streets nearly empty when I turned onto my block. That's when I saw him. No dog, just him, standing perfectly still at the corner. As I slowed, he stepped forward. "You live around here, right?" Something twisted in my stomach. "Yeah. Over there," I muttered, pointing vaguely. He smiled, but his eyes stayed cold. "You should come by sometime. I've got something in the basement you'd like to see." I swallowed hard. "What is it?" His grin widened. "A collection." Every instinct screamed at me to run. I muttered something about my mom waiting, then pedaled as fast as I could until I was behind my gate. I told my mom everything. Her face drained of color. She didn't question me. She just picked up the phone. Later that night, I overheard her whispering with my dad in the kitchen. Her voice was sharp, scared. Words like police and reports floated through the walls. The next week, an unmarked car appeared on our block. 2 men sat inside every evening watching. By the end of the month, he was gone. The man, the dog, the house dark and hollow. Life went back to normal, or at least it should have. But sometimes, when I passed his house, I swore I could see movement behind the curtains, shadows that shouldn't be there. And then, years later, something happened. I was 21, riding down the same street when I saw it. At the curb, right where I'd seen it so many times before. The dog, that same little brown dog, tail wagging, waiting, but the leash was dragging empty across the sidewalk. And when I looked closer, my stomach turned to ice. Tied around the dog's collar was a Polaroid, a photo of me, taken that very morning. I was 13 the summer it all started. Our neighborhood wasn't special. Just a quiet row of townhouses stacked shoulder to shoulder. Their paint faded, their porches cracked, the kind of place where everybody knew everybody. You could smell what your neighbor was cooking before your mom even set dinner on the table. You knew which door slammed when someone's kid came home late. You knew who was behind on rent before they did. It was safe, familiar, predictable. At least, it used to be. He moved in across the street in early June. No welcome party, no moving truck. Just him. Mid-40s, maybe older, with thinning black hair and a hunched way of walking, like each step weighed more than it should. He didn't bring furniture. No couches, no bed, just a few cardboard boxes that he carried in one at a time. That was the first thing that struck me, how empty the house looked from the outside. The second thing was the curtains, heavy, dark, drawn tight across every window, except one, an upstairs window on the left side. The blinds were always tilted open just a crack, enough to make you feel like someone could be looking out. At first, I brushed it off. Adults were weird. People liked privacy. But then, I started noticing him. When I'd play basketball on the street, sometimes I'd catch the faintest glimpse of his face behind those blinds. Not moving, not blinking, just watching. Other times I'd wake up in the middle of the night, roll over toward my window and see him. Standing in his yard, perfectly still. His face turned toward my bedroom. I told myself it was nothing. A trick of the dark, my imagination. But it kept happening. I tried telling my mom. She shook her head. New people are always a little odd at first. Don't worry. My dad barely looked up from his paper. Probably just private, but deep down I knew better. One evening in July, I was riding home late. The street was empty. Humid air pressed down on me, thick and heavy. As I rolled past his house, I heard something, a voice getting low, soft, coming from that cracked upstairs window. "Hey, kidda, sir." I froze. The street was dead silent, but I swear the whisper carried straight into my ear. "Come closer." My legs locked. My hands gripped the handlebars so tight my knuckles ached. "Don't pretend you don't hear me." I bolted, pedaled until my legs screamed. Didn't stop until I was inside my gate, slamming the lock behind me. I didn't sleep that night. I just stared at my curtains, praying I wouldn't see him standing outside again. The next morning, something was on our porch. A Polaroid photograph. My heart sank as soon as I picked it up. It was me, shooting hoops the night before, taken from across the street, from his yard. I ran inside, shoving the photo at my mom, her face drained of color. She didn't ask questions. She didn't even speak, just held the photo like it was a burning coal. My dad's reaction was different. He stormed out of the house, crossing the street in seconds. He pounded on the man's door so hard I thought it would break. But no one answered. No lights, no sound. That night, 2 police cars pulled up. I watched from my window as they knocked, then forced the door open. The house was empty, but not clean. Inside they found Polaroids. Dozens. No, hundreds. Covering the walls, kids from the neighborhood, families on porches, couples walking dogs, and then us, my parents, my friends, and me, rows and rows of me, playing ball, walking to the corner store, sleeping in my bed, pictures I didn't even know were taken, some of them from inside our house. The police searched the place for weeks. But the man was gone, no trace, no forwarding address, just vanished. The house sat empty after that, curtains drawn. The upstairs window cracked open, same as before. And sometimes late at night, when the street is silent and the air hangs heavy, I swear I still see movement behind those blinds. A faint shape, a pale sliver of face, watching. I don't know if he ever really left. But sometimes, when I'm alone, I still hear it, that whisper. "Hey, kid." I was 17 the summer it happened. Our neighborhood wasn't anything special, just a row of quiet houses, trimmed lawns, people who waved to each other on Sunday mornings. It was safe, ordinary, until the house across the street sold. It had been empty for as long as I could remember. The paint was faded, the curtains drawn tight, the kind of place kids dared each other to run past on Halloween. But one day a moving van showed up. By nightfall, the house had a new occupant, a woman, mid-30s, pale, too pale, with sharp features and long black hair, always in the same gray sweater, no matter how hot it got outside. She never introduced herself, never waved, but she was always there, watching, from her upstairs window. At first I thought it was just me. I'd glance up from mowing the lawn or riding my bike, and there she'd be, motionless, eyes fixed directly on our house. Then my little sister whispered one night at dinner, "She's staring at us again." We all turned to look, and there she was, standing at her window, not moving, not blinking, just watching. My mom tried to laugh it off. Maybe she's shy. But the way her smile faded told me she didn't believe it either. Days turned into weeks, and it only got worse. If I walked to school, I felt her eyes on me. If we played in the yard, she stood in her window like a statue. Sometimes I'd wake up at night and see her silhouette outlined against the glass, staring straight into my bedroom, and then the noises started. At first it was subtle, the crunch of gravel outside at midnight, a faint tapping on the glass when the wind was still. our dog growling at the front door, hackles raised, teeth bared. Once, around 2 a.m., I thought I heard someone breathing outside my window. Heavy. Slow. I pulled the blinds open. Nothing. But when I looked again at the house across the street, she wasn't in her window. She was gone. The next morning, I found footprints in the dew beneath my window. I told my mom. She called the police. They went to the house, knocked, waited. But when someone finally opened the door, it wasn't her. It was a man, older, maybe in his 60s. He looked irritated, confused. He told the officers he lived alone, that no woman had ever lived there. The cops shrugged it off as a misunderstanding, but I knew what I'd seen. And then, it escalated. One night, the power went out across the block. Pitch black. I lit a candle and instinctively looked out my window, and she was there, somewhere closer, not in her house. Not across the street. In our yard, right beneath my window. Her face tilted up, eyes fixed on me, lit only by the weak flicker of my candle. I couldn't scream, couldn't breathe. When I stumbled back, she smiled, slow, wrong. By the time I woke my parents, she was gone. But after that, she wasn't just in the window anymore. We'd see movement in the backyard, a shadow slipping past the porch light, fingers tapping on the glass. One night, my sister woke me with a whisper. She's inside. I thought it was a nightmare, until I heard it too. Footsteps in the hallway, bare feet, slow, dragging. We huddled together in bed, holding our breath, listening as the footsteps crept closer and stopped outside our door. Then silence. When my dad swung the door open, rifle in hand, the hallway was empty, but muddy footprints trailed down the stairs. When we didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Dad went across the street again, this time furious. He pounded on the door. The old man answered again, swearing he lived alone, swearing no woman had ever been there. But behind him, just for a second, I saw her, standing at the top of the stairs, watching. That night, my mom called the realtor who'd sold the house. I'll never forget the look on her face as she hung up. She said the realtor told her something she hadn't known before. The last woman to live in that house had died there years ago, alone upstairs by the window. And sometimes, on quiet nights when the street is dark and the blinds are open, the woman in the window, watching, always watching,